In the headlines, first, Venezuelan leaders escalate their attacks on Washington, accusing the U.S. of tightening economic sanctions and boosting military pressures through an expanded naval presence in the Caribbean. Shifting defense doctrine, Japan faces domestic and international backlash as Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi pushes a review of the country's military and security laws, including possible entry or possession of nuclear weapons, a move seen as a stark departure from post-war policy. Turning to Ukraine, U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll meets President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev to present a 28-point peace proposal, with both sides signaling openness to renewed diplomatic negotiations. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, at least 16 people are dead and 5 missing after relentless torrential rains triggered destructive floods and landslides across central Vietnam, submerging communities and cutting off vital routes. In the Philippines, calls grow for Senator Amy Marcos to petition the Supreme Court to declare President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. incapacitated amid allegations linking the president to illegal drug use. Trafficking verdict. Former Bamban Tarlac Mayor Alice Go is found guilty of qualified trafficking, a ruling the DOJ and PAOK hail as a major milestone in the nation's fight against human trafficking. And sports update. Lakers guard Bronny James is reassigned to the South Bay Lakers just days after briefly sharing the NBA floor again with his father, LeBron James. I'm Almar Forzuelo. Newsline World starts now. Thousands of pensioners filled the streets between Congress and Plaza Mayo on Wednesday, rallying against rising poverty and rejecting government labor reforms that could further reduce their income. This report. Long columns of pensioners are seen chanting as they move across Buenos Aires. Trade unions and social movements joined the march, calling for the restoration of full pension rights. The crowd denounces the end of the pension moratorium that allowed retirees without 30 years of contributions to access full benefits. Without it, many older adults are left with only the reduced universal pension. Protesters lift signs demanding the repeal of labor reforms and criticizing President Javier Milei. Some carry cardboard figures of former U.S. President Donald Trump. Others are seen burning a British flag as police oversee the demonstration from a distance. Despite the scale of the march, there are no clashes or incidents of violence.
No tienen para remedios y no tienen para comer. Acá se vive haciendo colectas, poniendo uno o con rifas, porque no tienen para comer, es elemental. Entonces, es verdaderamente desesperante la situación para algunos.
Many say the labor reform threatens to worsen living conditions with longer hours and lower pay.
Y eso es lo que la reforma laboral donde más va a desfavorecer con esto de las horas más de trabajo y menos salario. Ellos muchos dicen, yo trabajo, está bien trabajar, pero trabaja como un esclavo, no como un trabajador normal.
Others describe giving up everyday activities they once afforded after decades in the workforce.
Pero me cuesta llegar. Me he prohibido de tomar diariamente un café en un bar, de salir a un cine y comprarme lo que realmente trabajé en 40 años de trabajo.
Some frame the protest as a fight for national sovereignty, citing broader concerns about government policies. Pensioners say they will continue demonstrations in the coming weeks unless the government reverses the reforms and restores full pension protections. Brazil President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva closed the COP30 climate summit in Belém by declaring the conference a success, highlighting record indigenous participation and renewed global attention of Brazil's environmental leadership.
Wrapping up 2 weeks of negotiations, Lula said COP30 exceeded all expectations, calling it the most impactful climate summit to date. He stressed that Belém captured international visibility, noting that major capitals from Beijing and Berlin to Paris and Moscow now recognize the Amazon city as a key hub in global climate diplomacy.
Eu, desde o início, não tinha dúvida que a gente ia fazer a melhor COP de todas as COPs que foram realizadas até agora. Hoje eu tenho certeza que a China conhece Belém. Hoje eu tenho certeza que Berlim conhece Belém. Hoje eu tenho certeza que Paris conhece Belém. Hoje eu tenho certeza que a Rússia hoje conhece Belém.
Lula praised a strong civic engagement throughout the summit, singling out the Summit of the Peoples, where civil society groups delivered a consolidated climate action plan. He reiterated Brazil's commitment to global cooperation, saying that effective climate action requires richer nations to support developing countries.
Clima é saber que os países ricos precisam ajudar os países pobres.
The president also underscored landmark participation levels, with 3,500 indigenous representatives attending, the highest in COP history.
Estou muito feliz porque pela primeira vez na história das COP, 3.500 indígenas participaram.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa. Ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito, pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulong at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, saka palalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva closed the COP30 Climate Summit in Belém by declaring the conference a success, highlighting record indigenous participation and renewed global attention on Brazil's environmental leadership. More on this from Jean Domingo.
Wrapping up 2 weeks of negotiations, Lula said COP30 exceeded all expectations, calling it the most impactful climate summit to date. He stressed that Belém captured international visibility, noting that major capitals, from Beijing and Berlin to Paris and Moscow, now recognize the Amazon city as a key hub in global climate diplomacy.
Eu, desde o início, não tinha dúvida que a gente ia fazer a melhor COP de todas as COPs que foram realizadas até agora. Hoje eu tenho certeza que a China conhece Belém. Hoje eu tenho certeza que Berlim conhece Belém. Hoje eu tenho certeza que Paris conhece Belém. Hoje eu tenho certeza que a Rússia hoje conhece Belém.
Lula praised the strong civic engagement throughout the summit, singling out the Summit of the Peoples, where civil society groups delivered a consolidated climate action plan. He reiterated Brazil's commitment to global cooperation, saying that effective climate action requires richer nations to support developing countries.
Clima é saber que os países ricos precisam ajudar os países pobres.
The president also underscored landmark participation levels, with 3,500 indigenous representatives attending, the highest in COP history.
Estou muito feliz porque pela primeira vez na história das COP, 3.500 indígenas participaram.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
At least 16 people have died and 5 others remain missing as relentless heavy rains triggered massive flooding and landslide across central Vietnam, submerging entire communities. Thousands of residents have also been forcibly evacuated due to the danger. In the city of Coi Non, many areas are almost completely submerged in muddy floodwaters. Residents have to use boats to move around. According to Vietnamese authorities, more than 1,100 millimeters of rainfall have been recorded since Saturday night. The region includes some of Vietnam's most important coffee-growing areas, and the relentless downpour is expected to delay the ongoing coffee harvest. The Vietnam Coffee and Cocoa Association has also warned of a significant impact on supply. Emergency teams report that nearly 10,000 people have already been rescued, and officials are preparing to evacuate an estimated 27,000 more residents from high-risk downstream communities. Authorities continue to closely monitor the situation as more rainfall is expected across the region. A Philippine political strategist is calling out what she describes as street market antics and verbal brawling, saying they have no place in government communication. Her sharp words were aimed at Malacanang Palace official. Here's Sara Santos for the full story.
Mainit ang tensyon sa pagitan ni Professor Malu Tiquia at Undersecretary Claire Castro ng Presidential Communications Office o PCO. Diretsahang sinagot ni Tiquia ang mga patutsada laban sa kanya. During a forum at the PDP Laban's Kapihan, the issue between the two resurfaced following their heated exchanges on social media and in recent interviews. Castro had earlier called Tiquia a propagandist and questioned her credibility. After Tiquia commented on the issue of the president's alleged incapacity, Tiquia did not hold back in issuing her direct response.
Sinabi ko sa kanya, kumuha ka ng Comms 101, sender, noise, receiver. Siya ang sender, siya rin ang noise. Hindi ako ang propagandist. Ano ba ang propagandista? Ang propagandista, meron kang sinasabi in defense of someone. Ay, sino ang prinotektahan ko?
Tiquia also criticized Castro's style of communication as a palace official, saying it should follow a standard from tone to handling criticism and presenting data.
Perfect example, what do you think about incapacity? Sinagot ba niya? Hindi. Ang pivot niya ay ang mga Duterte, dapat tanungin yan. Yung mga, yung baha, nagsimula sa mga Duterte. Kaya nung tinatanong ko siya sa datos, hindi nga siya spokesman, ang pangalan niya, Press Information Officer. Information. Dalhin mo sa usapin ng datos, wala siya. Pero dalhin mo dun sa bastusan, nandun siya. The number 1 cardinal rule of a spokes, never be the center of the discussion at wag mapikon. Kasi you represent the institution.
When asked how this kind of behavior affects ordinary citizens, Tiquia said many people have been complaining about Castro's way of engaging with the public.
Unang nag-congratulate sa akin ay isang waiter ng isang restaurant ang pinuntahan ko the following day. Ang sabi lang sa akin, "Ma'am, congrats ha." Sabi ko, "Saan?" "Kasi ginanti mo kami." Marami palang galit sa kanya. BFF, public trust. Public office is a public trust. Hindi bardagulan.
Tiquia also urged the PCO leadership to review their communication strategy, stressing that the reputation of the president and the institution of Malacanang is at stake. Sa ngayon, wala pang tugon si Yuse Claire Castro sa mga pahayag ni Professor Maluti Kia. Ngunit una na nitong iginiit na ginagawa niya lamang ang kanyang trabaho bilang tagapagsalita ng palasyo. Para sa Diyos at Pilipinas kong mahal, Sara Santos, SMNI News.
Up next in the Philippines, calls grow for Senator Amy Marcos to petition the Supreme Court to declare President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. incapacitated amid the allegations linking the president to illegal drug use. And trafficking verdict, former Bamban Tarlac Mayor Alice Gu is found guilty of qualified trafficking, a ruling the DOJ and PAOK hail as a major milestone in the nation's fight against human trafficking. More news when Newsline World returns.
Madalas ka bang napapasobra sa pag-scroll sa phone mo kahit puro masasamang balita ang nakikita mo? Isipin mo ito. Nakahiga ka na sa kama, nagche-check lang ng phone bago matulog. Tapos, hindi mo na malayan, ilang oras ka na palang nagbabasa at nanonood ng mga balita tungkol sa digmaan, sakuna, politika at lahat ng masasamang nangyayari sa mundo. Nakakaramdam ka na ng kaba at pagod. Pero tuloy mo pa rin ang scroll mo. Ang tawag dyan ay doom scrolling. Ito ang habit ng paulit-ulit na pagtingin sa mga negatibo o nakaka-depress na content tulad ng digmaan, krimen o problema sa mundo. Nakaka-stress pero hindi mo pa rin mapigilan. Ayon sa isang pag-aaral ng Texas Tech University, ang sobrang konsumo ng masasamang balita ay nauugnay sa pagtaas ng stress, anxiety at pisikal na sintomas gaya ng pagkapagod at sakit ng ulo. Ayon naman sa Harvard Health, ang doom scrolling ay nagpapataas ng fight or flight hormones tulad ng cortisol at adrenaline na nakakapagpabigat ng isip at katawan. Nakakaapekto ito sa iyong mood, tulog at maging sa mental at physical health mo. At kapag naman puro memes at random na content ang pinapanood mo ng sunod-sunod hanggang sa mawalan ka na ng gana na mag-isip at gumawa ng iba pang gawain, ang tawag naman dyan ay brain rot. Sa Gen Z at tinatawag na internet culture, ang brain rot ay overconsumption o sobrang tagal na panonood ng paulit-ulit, mababaw, magulo o walang saysay na content online hanggang sa parang manhid na ang utak mo. Kapag nasobrahan, syempre, nakakasama. Nawawalan ka na ng focus, nawawala ang motivation, hirap mag-isip ng malalim, parang lutang o foggy ang utak. Masaya sa simula, pero kapag sobra, napapagod ang isip mo. Nahihirapang mag-concentrate at parang lutang. Mas delikado pa ito sa mga bata dahil ang utak nila ay nasa proseso pa ng pag-develop. Kaya mas malakas ang epekto ng doom scrolling at brain rot sa kanila. Maaaring makaapekto sa pag-aaral, pag-iisip at pakikitungo sa iba. Ang higit sa 4 na oras ng screen time araw-araw sa mga kabataan ay konektado sa 35 to 88% na mas mataas na posibilidad ng depresyon, anxiety at stress. Base ito sa isang malawakang pag-aaral sa Brazil. Kaya, maging balanse. Magpahinga sa screen, magbasa, makipagkwentuhan, magdasal, maging present lagi. Alagaan ang iyong isipan. Kung anong itinatanim sa isipan mo, yun ang lalago.
And we're back. Senator Amy Marcos is being urged to file a petition with the Supreme Court to declare President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. incapacitated following allegations that the president is involved in drug use. Jason Rubico has more.
The nation was shaken by explosive statements from Senator Amy Marcos against her own brother, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., after she revealed that he allegedly uses illegal drugs. According to Professor Maluti Kia, a political analyst, having a president addicted to drugs can be considered a national security threat. She emphasized that this directly affects the president's ability to make critical decisions.
I consider the revelations made by Senator Marcos as part and parcel of a national security threat. Bakit? Meron kang isang pinuno na sinabi nagko-cocaine. At hindi lang siya, ang asawa niya, ang paano magdidesisyon ang isang pangulong lulong sa cocaine? Paano susunod ang mga sundalo knowing ang nag-utos sabog? Diba? So kung ikaw sinabi, girahin natin ang Taiwan. Ngayon, nag-iisip ako, ano kaya yun? Nasa tamang wisyo o bangag? Yes. So it is a national security threat because that is the president.
Tikia also believes that Senator Amy disclosed the issue not only to help save her brother, but also to protect the country from a potentially more serious situation.
Apart from liniligtas ko yung kalusugan ng aking kapatid, concern rin siya as a senator sa bansa. So napakahirap yung balanse na yun, and really I thank the senator for being forthright, for being honest, although belated. Pero sa tingin ko yung nasa mesa dito, alam naman natin yung talagang nangyari doon. At public office is a public trust. Doon pumapaloob eh. Nahalal ka ng bayan, binigyan ka ng mandato, ngayong nalaman naming lulong ka, napakahirap intindihin kung hindi magsasalita ang Pangulo at kung hindi mag-hair follicle test.
Meanwhile, Dr. Richard Mata, a medical practitioner, further explained the dangerous effects of drug addiction, particularly to cocaine.
It's very, very dangerous. Actually, pwede po siyang magkaroon kaagad ng heart attack, pwedeng tumaas kaagad yung blood pressure, pwede kaagad magkaroon ng seizure, lalo na kung ma-overdose. Ngayon, pag sinasabi naman nilang microdosing, which na-mention po yun ni Senator Amy, na 4 times a day daw, actually, that is still dangerous and also for the country kasi if you're working and then you're doing microdosing, that's yung decision making mo mababago eh. Totoo po yung sinabi ni FPRRD na nagsishrink po yung utak. Ibig sabihin, maging mahina na po yung comprehension mo, decision making, at you could be easily manipulated.
Attorney Raul Lambino of PDP Laban also pointed out that the issue brings significant embarrassment to the international community, especially if the allegation is directed at a sitting president.
I have never felt so ashamed sa mga nadaluhan kong pagtitipon sa ibang bansa, Japan, Korea, ASEAN, China, conferences, when people, delegates, then they are going to ask you, hey, Mr. Lambino, is it true that your president is a drug addict? Di ako makasagot. Kaya eh. But this time, pag tinanong ako ng isang foreigner, well, according to the sister, was personal knowledge of the presidents and the members of the first family and some high-ranking officials of government who are there, incumbent they are, working with him, are also involved in this illegal use of drugs.
In connection with this, Senator Amy Marcos is being urged to file a petition with the Supreme Court to declare the president incapacitated based on her own statements regarding PBBM's alleged drugs use.
PDP Laban should urge Senator Amy Marcos to file a petition before the Supreme Court to declare BBM as incapacitated because of his drug addiction. Yun ang ano. And I told her to prepare the petition and then we will ask the senator to file the petition upon the support of PDP Laban. Talagang that's the best way, the easiest way to declare. Kasi wag na kayong mag-isip, wag na kayong managinip na magde-declare siya ng incapacity niya sa sarili niya. She will never do that.
According to the 1987 Constitution, a president can be considered incapacitated when he is no longer able to perform his duties due to a physical or mental condition. In such a situation, the vice president temporarily assumes the role of acting president. It is within the cabinet's authority to declare the president incapacitated if he is no longer able to act or make decisions for the country. Reporting for Newsline World, I am Jason Rubrico, SM9 News.
The court has found former Banban Tarlac Mayor Alice Guo guilty of qualified trafficking. According to the DOJ and PAOK, this victory is a significant milestone in their fight against human trafficking. Margot Gonzalez reports.
Former Banban Tarlac Mayor Alice Guo was found guilty of qualified trafficking in persons by Pasig RTC Branch 167. She was sentenced to life imprisonment. It will be recalled that Guo was charged by the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission and the Philippine National Police due to her alleged connection to the illegal operations of the Poku Hub located within the compound of Baufo Land Development Incorporated, a leasing company owned by Guo. Aside from Guo, the accused Rachel Malonzo Carrion, Jamie Lynn Cruz, Walter Wong Rong, and 4 others were also found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. They were also fined by the court 2 million pesos for each count and ordered to pay damages to the victims. The court also ordered the forfeiture of the Baufo compound and the buildings constructed there. The said compound is estimated to be worth 6 billion pesos. Guo appeared at the promulgation through video conferencing along with her 15 co-accused. For the PAOK, their victory in the case is symbolic. They noted that the court resolved the case quickly as the trial only took 1 year.
We expect yung worst, but this is a big surprise para sa amin lahat. The Philippine National Police, the Justice Department, yung PAOK, and then yung ibang law enforcement agencies like the BI, NBI. This is parang dito nagsama-sama yung hirap namin, yung pawis namin. Kasi hindi lang ganun it took us a year and a half. Simula nung mapakulungan natin itong mga to, and napakalaking katuwaan at kagaya ng sinabi ko, a victory para sa ating lahat.
It is not just a victory for the government, but a victory for the victims, for the community, and pati na rin sa ibang bansa. Makikita natin kasi ibang biktima ay may mga foreigners.
The DOJ meanwhile confirmed that Guo may still appeal, but the court's decision is immediately executory.
Right now, she is currently detained and the judgment is immediately executory. So, ibig sabihin, to answer your question, there is still a right to appeal, of course, from the RTC to the Court of Appeals. But that, as to the issue of her incarceration, nakakulong na po siya.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNA News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has directed turnover of flood control corruption findings to Ombudsman. Criselyn Cataro reports.
Ay lahat ng nakuha nila na impormasyon.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has instructed the Department of Public Works and Highways and the Independent Commission for Infrastructure to forward to the Office of the Ombudsman all documents and information they have collected so far regarding alleged irregularities in flood control projects raised by former House Speaker Martin Romualdez and former Ako Bicol Party List Representative Zaldi Co. In a video message released on Friday, the President announced that the Ombudsman will take the lead in pursuing the separate allegations lodged by Romualdez and Co. According to President Marcos, the directive reflects his commitment to keep the public informed about the progress of the probe he initiated, covering ongoing investigations, potential cases, and the reforms being put in place to prevent the misuse of public funds in flood control and other infrastructure projects.
Ay nais kong ipalaman sa ating mga kababayan na ang ICI at saka ang DPWH ay lahat ng nakuha nila na impormasyon ay ire-refer, ibibigay na sa Ombudsman para imbestigahan ng Ombudsman. Ito ay tungkol sa mga impormasyon ng dating Speaker Martin Romualdez at saka ni Saldico.
Marcos stressed that any action to be taken by the Ombudsman will be anchored on evidence. He noted that depending on what investigators find, possible charges could include plunder, anti-graft violations, or indirect bribery. The president expressed confidence in the Ombudsman's impartiality, saying it will follow where the evidence leads.
Pag nakita lahat ng ebidensya, baka mag-file ng kaso ng plunder o anti-graft o indirect bribery. Malakas naman ang loob natin na yung ombudsman, ang ginagawa lamang ay sumusunod sa ebidensya. At kung saan tayo dinadala ng ebidensya, doon pupunta ang ating investigasyon.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carceling Catarong, SMNI News.
Contractors seem to be rushing the construction of 4 identified ghost farm-to-market road projects in Malita, Davao Occidental instead of being completed in 2023 as of scheduled. These projects are only now being undertaken while the Department of Agriculture conducts an audit report alongside its investigation into anomalous flood control projects. Sheena Tono will report.
The government's investigation into anomalous flood control project is still ongoing. Meanwhile, irregularities have been found in the Department of Agriculture's farm-to-market road projects. It can be recalled that Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. previously revealed that ghost projects were also discovered, particularly in Malita, Davao Occidental. In a press briefing on Thursday, DA spokesperson Arnel de Mesa stated that based on their audit reports, 4 FMR projects have been identified as ghost projects. These include the concreting of the J-City National Highway Shanghai-Tayuhan Beer Road FMR, Barangay Demolic FMR Sitio Bagtok, Barangay Demolic FMR in Malita, and Barangay Kulaman FMR Phase 2 in Jose Abad Santos, Davao Occidental. The said projects were funded with a total 52 million pesos, as reflected in the General Appropriations Act. The unfortunate part is these projects were supposed to have been completed in 2021, 2022, and 2023.
Since lapse na yung budget, dapat wala na.
Yes.
Pero merong gumagalaw. Kagaya ng, di ba yung nakita ni Sec, na may mga portions na, ang tanong dyan, kaninong pondo yung ginamit?
May construction.
May construction.
The contractors for the 4 ghost projects have also been identified, including Great Pacific Builders and General Contractors Incorporated, Jamari Construction Services and Supply, Dysem Construction and Supply, and HVC Sagittarius Commercial. Currently, the results of the audit reports regarding the anomalous farm-to-market roads have already been submitted to the Office of the President.
Kumbaga, DPWH lang ang nag-a-action. Kaya sila yung nagbabayad. Kasi nasa kanila na yung pondo eh. So, in terms of liability, walang liability si DA kasi hindi siya part doon sa kailangan pumirma para ma-release ang payment doon sa contractor.
The Department of Agriculture has also clarified that it has no jurisdiction over the implementation of these projects, as this is the responsibility of the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH. At present, the DA has not yet given a clear statement on when it will submit the findings of its audit reports to the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. More than 3,000 farm-to-market road projects nationwide still need to be investigated, with a review expected to be completed by the first quarter of 2026. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this is Sheena Tono, SMNI News.
When we return, Venezuelan leaders escalate their attacks on Washington, accusing the U.S. of tightening economic sanctions and boosting military pressure through an expanded naval presence in the Caribbean. Shifting defense doctrine, Japan faces domestic and international backlash as Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi pushes a review of the country's military and security laws, including possible entry of or possession of nuclear weapons, a move seen as a stark departure from post-war policy. And turning to Ukraine, U.S. Army Secretary Dan Diskrol meets President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev to present a 28-point peace proposal, with both sides signaling openness to renewed diplomatic negotiations. Stay tuned for more news.
how to receive God's favor. So, for us, in order to receive the favor of God, we must avoid a holier than thou attitude. Importante sa harap ng ating Panginoon na tayo ay may kababaan ng loob na wag nating tingnan at mapagmataas tayo sa ating mga sarili. Isaiah chapter 57 verse 15. For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in the high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite ones. Bilang mga anak ng Diyos na tunay, upang tayo ay kasihan ng kanyang pabor, kailangan tayo ay hindi lamang mapagpakumbaba, kundi tayo ay mapagpatawad. If you want to seek the favor of God, be forgiving in your heart, so that when you pray and lift up holy hands to heaven, the Lord of heaven will also forgive your trespasses. May pabor ka na sa Diyos pagka ikaw ay dumadalangin na pinatawad mo ang kasalanan ng iba. In order to receive the favor of God, we must be humble. We must be forgiving. And we should not judge. And then, if you want to have favor with God, you must love God and obey God's words at all times. Ang aklat na ito ng kautusan ay huwag mahihiwalay sa iyong bibig, kundi iyong pagbubulayan araw at gabi upang iyong masunod na gawin ang ayon sa lahat ng nakasulat dito, sapagkat kung magkagayoy, iyong pagiginhawain ang iyong lakad, at kung magkagayoy, magtatamo ka ng mabuting kawakasan. Magkakaroon ka ng pabor sa harap ng ating Panginoon. Mahalin ang kanyang mga banal na salita, ipamuhay ang kanyang banal na salita, sundin ang kanyang banal na salita, huwag hihiwalay ang kanyang banal na salita sa ating bibig araw at gabi. Pagbubulayan natin yan araw at gabi. Bago kayo magtrabaho sa umaga, pagkagising ninyo, kumuha muna kayo ng mga salita ng Diyos. Magbasa kayo, mag-devotional kayo, basahin ang salita ng Diyos, mahalin ang salita ng Diyos. Huwag ilagay ang Biblia at patungan ng anumang klaseng libro. Kailangan yan ay nasa ibabaw ng lahat ng libro.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has said President Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to broker peace in conflict-affected countries, calling him a humanitarian who seeks to save lives and promote global commerce over conflict. U.S. Vance said this in an interview, adding that deserves the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts to bring peace to Sudan and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The U.S. Vice President noted the 8 peace deals have already been accomplished, with work ongoing on the 9th and 10th. He also described Trump as a humanitarian who seeks to save lives and create a world where people engage in commerce with one another rather than resort to killing.
We've got 8 peace deals at this point. We're working on number 9 and number 10. And I think that, if he gets number 10, the Nobel Prize should be awarded to Donald J. Trump, even though he's certainly earned it with the first 8. While he wants to save lives, he also sees a world where people are engaging in commerce with one another rather than killing one another.
Although Trump has actively promoted his candidacy for the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize, the award was ultimately given to Venezuelan pro-democracy leader Maria Corina Machado, who dedicated her award to Trump. Venezuelan leaders intensified their criticism of the United States on Wednesday, accusing Washington of waging economic and military pressure against Caracas through sanctions and an expanded naval presence in the Caribbean. More on this from Joy Tabanaho.
Venezuela Foreign Minister Ivan Gil delivered the government's sharpest remarks during an event celebrating UNESCO's 80th anniversary in Bolivar Square. Gil accused the U.S. of enforcing sanctions that he said have been recognized internationally for damaging Venezuela's health, education, and development sectors.
Hoy somos un país bajo sanciones injustas, ilegales, ilegítimas, que también la UNESCO ha reconocido cómo afectan estas llamadas técnicamente medidas coercitivas unilaterales, pero no son más que agresiones, sanciones, bombas que caen sobre la capacidad del Estado. ¿Vale?
Gil also condemned the deployment of U.S. naval vessels near Venezuelan waters. He described the increased Caribbean military presence, including aircraft carriers and destroyers, as a direct threat designed to pressure the government and intimidate the population. The U.S. has strengthened its Caribbean deployment since September, saying the move targets drug trafficking towards its shores. Caracas rejects that explanation, calling the operations a form of military intimidation amid ongoing political tensions. Later in Caracas, President Nicolas Maduro linked the country's domestic development program to national defense and self-reliance. He reiterated that Venezuela must maintain independence from foreign powers, especially the United States.
Aprendamos de todo lo que hay que aprender. Hagamos nosotros todo lo que hay que hacer y no dependamos jamás de nadie para que la patria sea independiente, absolutamente independiente y libre.
Maduro also confirmed that a weapons park for communal militias is now operational. He said the system, which includes rifles, heavy weapons, and missiles, is intended to defend the capital and the coastal region facing the Caribbean Sea. UN officials and human rights organizations have warned that any U.S. military action in the region could constitute an unlawful use of force. Caracas has repeatedly called on Washington to halt operations it describes as destabilizing. As sanctions endure and security posturing increases, Venezuelan officials signal that confrontation with Washington remains a defining element of the country's political landscape. Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's recent remarks on China's Taiwan region have drawn widespread criticism from international experts who warned that her comments could undermine regional stability and heighten tensions in East Asia. Let's find out more about this with Prince Tripoli.
Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's remarks on China's Taiwan region have drawn widespread criticism from experts, with international observers calling them a serious misstep that could undermine regional stability. Among them is Marta Montoro, Vice President and Director General of the Cathedral China Foundation in Spain, who urged Japan to promote peaceful relations and mutual understanding among nations.
Y creo que la ministra debería de haber sido más prudente en sus comentarios. Ha sido una metedura de pata que yo creo que espero que sepa reconducir, porque en este momento el mundo lo que necesita es avanzar hacia la paz y la convivencia pacífica, hacia un multilateralismo que propone China y una civilización global en la que todos seamos capaces de convivir y de transmitir nuestros conocimientos en una comunidad de destino compartido. Esto es fundamental y yo creo que Japón y los ciudadanos japoneses así lo quieren.
Meanwhile, South African writer and journalist Ismail Lagardine warned Japan's militarization and statements threaten to destabilize the region.
The Japanese statement is rather pernicious, if I may say so. It's reflected in
Japan's return to militarization. We must remember that Japan was a highly militarized society during the Second World War, and the Chinese remember the invasion, Japan's invasion of China. The Southeast Asians remember that. So they're trying to provoke nationalist sentiments within the country through Prime Minister Takahashi. So we need to be concerned about that.
According to experts, such remarks could heighten regional tensions and require careful diplomatic measures to maintain peace and stability. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, SMNA News.
Prime Minister Sanay Takaichi's plan to review Japan's military and security laws, including the potential entry or possession of nuclear weapons, has sparked strong criticism both domestically and internationally, raising concerns over a major shift in the country's post-war defense policy. Joy Tabanao for the story.
Prime Minister Sanay Takaichi's plan to revise the country's military and security laws, including the possibility of allowing the entry or possession of nuclear weapons, has drawn strong reactions and criticism.
Whatever Prime Minister Takaichi is talking about is in violation of the Japanese Constitution, in violation of the terms upon which Japan unconditionally surrendered in 1945.
Reports say Takaichi is considering a review of Japan's long-standing 3 non-nuclear principles: not possessing, not producing, and not permitting the introduction of nuclear weapons into Japanese territory.
Mankind will never tolerate the prospect of Japan possessing nuclear weapons, because that will in itself constitute a major threat to peace and security of mankind as a whole. Prime Minister Takaichi should completely abandon her wildest dream of amending the regulations in Japan to allow Japan to develop nuclear weapons.
One of the key points being discussed in the third principle, which bans the entry of nuclear weapons into Japan. The proposal has sparked immediate concern and strong opposition from the public. Takaichi has long pushed for strengthening Japan's defense capabilities. This includes a proposal to rename the Self-Defense Forces as the National Defense Forces and amend Article 9 of the Constitution, which strictly prohibits the use of force to resolve international disputes.
Takashiki has been holding these views not for now, but for many years or even decades before. However, the fact that she is now the Prime Minister of Japan makes a lot of difference. She, as the head of government of Japan, should fully realize the conditions upon which Japan unconditionally surrendered to China, to the United States, to the Soviet Union, to Great Britain, under which they solemnly declared that they will never constitute a threat to peace and security of these countries.
At the same time, the Liberal Democratic Party and the Japan Innovation Party have begun discussions on what could become the first ever revision of the Constitution enacted after World War II. Topics under review include changes to Article 9 and the creation of an emergency clause that would grant the government expanded powers in times of major disasters or armed attacks. Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev on Thursday to present a 28-point peace plan aimed at ending the ongoing war, with both sides expressing willingness to engage in diplomatic talks. U.S. Army Secretary Dan Driscoll met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev recently to present a 28-point peace plan aimed at ending the war in the country. The U.S. delegation included Army Chief of Staff Randy George and other senior officials. According to White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt, Secretary of State Marco Rubio and U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff have been working quietly on a plan to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. She also described the plan as a good plan with positive prospects. Zelensky's office confirmed that Ukraine is ready to discuss the U.S. drafted proposal. In a statement, Kiev agreed to work on the plan's provisions in a way that would bring about a just end to the war. The statement added that the incoming days, Zelensky expects to discuss with U.S. President Donald Trump the available diplomatic opportunities and the key points necessary for peace. Newsline World will be back after the break.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubahang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado. 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon. Ayon sa schedule ng pasyente, ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina, at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Metro Manila is in Mindanao for a major partnership agreement with a key province in the region. Prince Tripoli for the story.
The twinning partnership between San Juan City and the province of Sultan Kudarat was officially signed on Thursday, November 20, 2025. The agreement aims to strengthen the exchange of good governance practices between the two local governments. According to San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora, his city will help promote Sultan Kudarat's tourism, agriculture, coffee products, and other economic opportunities.
Isang karangalan po para sa amin na maging ganap na magkapatid ang lungsod ng San Juan at ng Sultan Kudarat, at marami po tayong itutulong sa isa't isa when it comes to the sharing of best practices, opportunities for tourism, of course also employment, no? Kung may mga gusto magtrabaho sa San Juan or sa Metro Manila from Sultan Kudarat, now we can open up all of these opportunities.
Governor Dato Pax Ali Mangudadato welcomed the partnership, especially since Mayor Zamora leads both the Metro Manila mayors and the League of Cities and Municipalities of the Philippines.
We sincerely believe that this partnership is based on many similarities katulad ng ating mga principles para sa ating mga kababayan, and we're looking forward na magkatulungan tayo where we replicate our good governance practices, where we also try to help one another in terms of disaster preparedness and whatnot. Maganda po ito dahil nakakasundo yung mga opisyalis natin, and I'm sure and I'm confident that we can complement each other, Sultan Kudarat and the city of San Juan.
Aside from the partnership signing, Mayor Zamora also attended the grand opening of the 2025 Kalimutan Festival. He described the celebration as world-class, highlighting the spectacular fireworks, guest performers, massive stage production, and a joyful crowd.
Bilib na bilib po ako sa nakita ko ngayong gabi.
Mayor Zamora added that Mindanao is beautiful and safe based on what he personally witnessed.
I didn't feel any worries, any sense of danger. Wala. Talagang ramdam ko naman po na tahimik at payapa at ligtas po dito po sa Mindanao. At ako'y babalik at babalik po rito.
For now, both local governments look forward to maximizing the benefits of the twinning partnership as they strengthen ties between San Juan City and the province of Sultan Kudarat. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Prince Tripoli, SMNA News.
In sports, Charles Leclerc set the standard in opening practice at the Las Vegas Grand Prix, while McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri battled through a difficult start to the weekend, while Lakers guard Bronny James has been assigned to the South Bay Lakers just 2 days after briefly sharing the court again with his father, LeBron James. Norris and Piastri could only place 6th and 8th on a dusty surface. Both drivers sliding off track as they search for grip. Norris finished 0.456 seconds behind Leclerc's leading time, while Piastri was 0.192 seconds lower than his teammate after running wide at turns 8 and 9 around the sphere. Leclerc ended the session 0.166 seconds ahead of Williams' Alex Albon. Yuki Tsunoda took third for the Red Bull, finishing ahead of Max Verstappen for the first time this season. Carlos Sainz placed 5th for Williams, and Racing Bull's Isaac Hadjar secured 7th with a strong final lap. George Russell managed 9th for Mercedes, just ahead of Kimi Antonelli and Ferrari's Lewis Hamilton. Norris twice overshot the turn 14 escape road and even brushed the wall earlier on, though his McLaren stayed intact despite his recent surge in the championship. Norris couldn't find the pace needed to challenge the front runners in this opening season. With the track still dirty and grip expected to increase, the first practice times are unlikely to reflect the competitive order for the rest of the weekend. Meanwhile, the Lakers designated Bronny James for G League assignment following his 10 appearances in the team's first 15 games of the season. The move comes shortly after LeBron returned for a 14-game absence due to sciatica, making his season debut in a 140-106 win over Utah. Father and son played together once more, combining for 14 points against the Jazz. LeBron delivered 11 points, 12 assists, and 3 rebounds in his return, while hitting 2 of his 3 shots from beyond the arc. Bronny has seen increased playing time in his second year, averaging 11.1 minutes, 2.1 points, and 1.8 assists. Now, he heads back to South Bay, where he excelled last season, putting up 21.9 points, 5.5 assists, 5.1 rebounds, and 1.9 steals across 11 G League games. LeBron enters his 23rd NBA season, coming off a year with his lowest scoring average since his rookie campaign. Despite his absence early this season, the Lakers have started strong at 11-4, winning 10 games without him and holding 4th place in tight Western Conference. Julian's Auction and Turner Classic Movies are putting nearly 1,500 pieces of cinematic history up for bid, from Golden Age jewels to modern film props. Daniela Paulite has all the buzz.
Nearly 1,500 artifacts from Hollywood's Golden Age to today are hitting the auction block as Julian's Auctions and Turner Classic Movies launched their highly anticipated Hollywood Legend sale, giving fans and collectors a rare chance to own pieces once used, worn, or cherished on screen. The auction is divided into 3 themed sales. First, the Joseph of Hollywood collection with more than 400 pieces. Second, the Classic Hollywood segment covering items from the silent era to the 1970s. And the Contemporary Hollywood collection featuring memorabilia from 1970s to the present. One of the biggest draws is the Trove of Joseph of Hollywood pieces, including Rita Hayworth's earrings from Gilda and a bracelet used in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and earrings worn in How to Marry a Millionaire. Iconic pieces associated with none other than Marilyn Monroe, adding both glamour and historical weight to the auction. Other standout pieces include a Jurassic Park clapperboard, Rocky boxing gloves, and the shirts worn by Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, and the emotional final scene of Brokeback Mountain. A 1983 Tim Burton painting related to The Nightmare Before Christmas. From the contemporary lineup, Robert Crumb's well-used drawing easel, utilized by director Terry Zwigoff, is expected to draw competitive bids. Julian's Auctions was founded in 1989 by Darren Julian and Martin J. Nolan to specialize in high-end auctions of entertainment memorabilia, fine art, and collectibles, giving fans and collectors the opportunity to own iconic items from Hollywood, music, sports, and popular culture. Get ready, Hollywood fans! From December 9 to 12 in Gardena, California, Julian's legendary auction opens its doors, both in person and online, giving film buffs, collectors, and super fans the chance to snatch a piece of Hollywood history and own a slice of cinematic magic. This is Daniela Paulita, bringing you the latest showbuzz.
A new Miss Universe has been crowned, and the Philippines is once again part of the pageant's winning circle. Mexico's Fatima Bosch emerged victorious in this year's competition held in Thailand, while Atisa Manalo delivered strong finish as third runner-up. Bosch received the crown from outgoing Queen Victoria Gjer de Vig of Denmark, the first ever Miss Universe winner from her country. Rounding out the Miss Universe 2025 court features Thailand's Pravinar Singh as first runner-up, Venezuela's Stephanie Abasali as second runner-up, and the Philippines' Atisa Manalo as third runner-up, marking the best Filipino finish since 2021. The pageant returned to Thailand for the first time since Catriona Gray's victory in 2018. From 120 contestants, the field was narrowed down to 30 semifinalists, then 12 for the evening gown round before the final top 5 phase, the question and answer portion. But the competition did not come without controversy. Two judges, composer Omar Harfouch and French football manager Claude Makélélé, resigned just days before the finale, raising concerns about transparency and fueling allegations of rigging. Miss Universe now sets its sights on Puerto Rico, the host of the pageant's Diamond Anniversary in 2026. And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the Son. Guard your mind, soul, and heart that they will remain upright in the sight of God. And for our Christmas countdown, only 34 days to go before Christmas. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Almar Swallow. Thank you for watching.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth